So I'm streaming it to. I'll just give a cue when we are on. But so well. Yes, we are live. So Audrey.
Okay. Hi everyone. Hi Matt. Hi. Thanks for joining this session where we discuss about the topic of mental health in Singapore today. So today we have me and Nikki will be the moderators for today's session. We are from Heartbeats, which is a platform where we discuss about social initiatives and topics that Singaporeans care about. So today we have invited a very special guest speaker, Matt Woon, the founder of Acceset, a social enterprise that looks into solutions to improve the mental well-being of youth. And what they do is that they provide anonymous text-based therapy and conducting research and training for organizations.
So we know that COVID-19 has disrupted the school interactions between peers and like in various institutions, from primary school all the way up to university and other institutions. It has been teens or like youth had to deal with the additional stress and anxiety, mental health challenges because of all these compounding factors. So to support this movement for mental health, like youth have to engage with social activities or other stakeholders that will really come into the picture and support them. So given the increasing importance like locally as well as globally, a lot of these activities or movements have started to come and take shape. So at Acceset, you and your team will strive to improve mental health well-being of youth by providing anonymous chat-based therapy as well as other services. So yeah, we have met today, and to start off the whole discussion, maybe you can just tell us what inspired you to start Acceset.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. I would say that Acceset is really a digital infrastructure. I think we are trying to be the customized solution that can optimize, like peer support. And this starts from providing really good training so that students are empowered with the skills and the capabilities to adequately support and meet the needs of their peers, their friends who reach out or going through a difficult time or when they need to kind of like process difficulties in the emotions and whatnot. Really the concept of asset boils down to like the word asset itself comprises the word accept and reset, and the vision really is to empower youth and students to accept, care, and reset lives. And I guess that's really something that gave the company a lot of focus. And a lot of the work that we do is inspired by how do we achieve this mission and solve this problem of improving access to care. And at that time, I think 2015, 2016, it's very hard to kind of like put technology and mental health together. I think if you talk to any counselor, any educators at that time, their belief is that face-to-face support is the most important part when it comes to mental health recovery or like attending to any student issues. But I think that there really is potential to look at how students can play a more active and essential role beyond looking out for signs of danger and linking them to the adults and the counselors to do the work. So I guess that's also where like Reset Lives comes in. And I think the idea here is when it comes to Reset Lives is you have a set of experience. Life dealt you with certain cards and you're conditioned in a certain way. And when you fit certain symptoms, it can be considered potentially as depression or anxiety. But on the flip side, these experiences also give you unique insights and training. You develop certain skill set. And I'm interested to know those positive things that make you more productive and more competitive in certain areas. How do we then harness that, feed that back into building a better company, a better work culture, and solve these mental health problems together. So I guess that's something that I'm still learning. In 2020, I found an organization that was really honest, Wellcome Trust Foundation. They say, look, for all the science and for all the funding, I still don't know what's the root cause. I can't like pinpoint like in a scientific way. Like if you have, for example, STD, you do a blood test or whatnot, you can like there's no argument about it, right? It's an objective science, but mental health is not an objective science. You can't like blood test, okay, you have depression. So we don't know what's the exact cause. We don't know what's the exact solution. But if you have a good idea, let me know. We look through a proposal, we fund you. And I think I was on that project with NUS. Very thankful that they supported this thing. And it really gave us an insight into how we can better understand and address mental health issues. And I think that's really what inspired me to continue this work, because it's a real problem. It needs a real solution. And I think that kind of process creates really good growth opportunities for everyone involved.
Right. So yeah, I think it was very interesting when you talked about like mental health not being an objective science. So it takes more than just there's no diagnosis or whatever going on. It really takes a lot of effort and constant outreach, even from peer-to-peer level and everything, to kind of like talk to people and find out more from them. So based on your experiences, is mental health a serious, for lack of a better word, issue in Singapore?
I would say that mental health, that the ones that I think we paid a lot of attention to is perhaps the really severe ones. And like maybe you need to fit like certain symptoms, certain criteria. Maybe like if you do a evidence kind of like questionnaire, you need to have a score of at least 15 to qualify for depression or anxiety. Of course, there are other like ways to look at it. But I would say that with advancements in internet and the pace of change, I think there's a lot of stress that comes along with this transition. Something that I guess maybe we experience more closely is COVID-19 and how we had to make adjustments along the way. And I would say that it's increasingly a more prevalent issue from all quarters. Like maybe 5 years ago, I have a lot of education to put it out like to the stakeholders, the educators, the counselors or whoever, right? Or even to my fellow colleague and peers that this is something we should work on together. Today, you don't have to like do the same kind of education. I think people can see that this is a problem. They can see how the same way of working is not sustainable, and they start to question like whether they need more work-life balance and whatnot. So I think from that perspective, you can say that more people are aware of how their emotional state can affect their function. And in that perspective, you can say that it is something that is being given more attention, mental well-being issues.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I mean, I do think that definitely more people are aware now. And it's quite crazy because previously, if you talk about maybe 5 to 10 years ago, mental health is sometimes viewed as a taboo topic, right? Or at least an uncomfortable one where people are not willing to speak about it. But then if you look at the scene now, it is changing. More and more people are willing to speak out and talk about it. So and of course, this is also more prevalent when you see more support systems around Singapore trying to create a safe space to talk about mental health, just like what Acceset is doing right now. It really focuses a lot on text-based therapy, whereby youth are able to also confide about their problems anonymously to even a trained befriender, like what you said, as you want to equip the skills to people, right? So I guess also based on some of the works that Acceset has done, what are some common mental health issues that you have uncovered just by just interacting with youth or even based on your experience, yeah, what are some common mental health issues among the youths in Singapore?
Okay, I can't go like very specific on this, so but I can say like on an aggregate basis, I have seen a lot of expression of distress and sadness. So these are emotions that are tied to very specific contextual challenges. So it could be finding difficulty to adjust to the pace of work in a new school environment. There could be a mismatch of expectation or skill set. They thought it was like this, but in that like that, and they are stuck. There are also cases where, like I would say that people are uncertain, and they find it difficult to break out of their shell to reach out, connect with communities, find meaningful friends, and they are wondering how people around them could just so easily gel into this. And I think with COVID-19, I see more of this, like, how do I find my place and find my community and connect with the people and make sense of everything. There are also like issues around increased workload as a result of COVID-19 coming in. There are not many cases that come in to specifically talk about anxiety or specifically talk about depression or other mental disorder. And I would say that this could also be because maybe in many people's mind, the letter writing is, they want to talk about life experiences rather than just a part of like a illness or a condition. And I would say when it comes to addressing mental health issues, one thing that for Acceset we try to do differently is we try to focus less on the risk factors. So we are not looking at analysis of what your trigger points are, what causes you stress, where's the problem. If I can put it like in a more in an analogy, when you have flu, we don't try to like analyze what causes the flu, how to prevent the flu. When you have flu, you take tablet. So, and in Acceset's case, we are trying to look at protective factors. Okay, when you have a sad day, what can help you to recover and bounce back faster? Good friends, good conversation, meaning. So let's work towards that. I think that's really how we're trying to add value to today's conversations around mental health and peer support systems.
I think those are really insightful, especially since you don't only focus on the problem itself, but you also try to think of certain tactics, or I would say positive reinforcement, right? To make the people think that having a certain issue is not a problem, but instead you can actually see it in a positive light, or even a different light. So I do think that based on what you say, perception is very important. And also, I just want to bring up that the fact that you talk about COVID-19 is something that I can relate really well because I'm currently working. And I do think that because of this situation, workload naturally increase because the boundaries between the work and your life, sometimes it gets blurred. So a lot of the people that I know as well, they do face a slight burnout from work. So definitely agree with what you said. So I guess, right, I mean, since we're even on the COVID-19 pandemic, and you did also mention that perhaps that could be one of the reasons people are actually seeking mental health support. So I just want to know your thoughts about, this whole situation, and what do you think we can potentially do to improve this situation, or, just go about looking into this?
I mean, with COVID-19, you are looking at two different forces at play. So first is you are looking at the presence of negative experience. I don't know about you, but whenever the prime minister talk, I don't like look forward to it because I don't know whether it's something good or something bad. Maybe because the first time he talked right there, it's like, oh, lockdown. And every time the news come out, there was a period where it's so jaded. No, I don't want to like hear any report about how many extra cases we have. So I think that's one force at play. Presence of negative experiences. Oh, then you have to like do the PCR just to attend the wedding because you're not vaccinated and that kind of stuff, right? The other force at play is the absence of positive experience. I used to be able to hang out. Now I cannot. I used to be able to go to office and maybe go to my library to do my thing because my house has no aircon. Now I'm stuck at home. I come from a big family. I live in a small unit, and now like I need to stay at home the whole time, for example. So everybody have had their own routine in yesterday's world, and some of those routine you can't like execute them in the new world. And I think it really adds a lot of stress to families, to individuals that come from low resource environment. You will feel it more if you don't have Wi-Fi at home, for example. So maybe last time you can go out to McDonald's and tap on wireless at SG, do your Netflix or your Me Watch or whatnot. And those routine, being able to consume video content keeps you safe. Now you're stuck at home and your house has no Wi-Fi. That's very stressful, right? Like, so I think that's what I would see as COVID-19. Maybe people are reaching out also because they realize, hey, I need new routine. I need a way to experience this positive thing, even if it's very weird to meet my friends on Zoom. And then like we don't know what to do on Zoom the first time like we meet, like what do we talk about, what games do we play? We have to try because otherwise I would just go crazy, every day stay at home and do nothing. So I think that's the kind of change that all of us have to grapple with. But it is also something that I felt from a business standpoint was very good. I don't have to explain to a lot of people about a lot of things. Last time, cannot work from home, right? If you work from home, that means you're not taking my student interns seriously. Your work is not serious. I have so much to explain. Now it's, oh, work from home. Yes, please work from home, Last time, maybe you have to explain a lot about the value of technology in digital service, especially for mental health. Now with COVID-19, it's an acceptable mode. So I think mindsets are also changing along with the change in the environment and circumstances, which I think is a good thing for, I guess, like for Acceset. And I would also say one other thing about COVID-19 is potentially I think people are scrolling more, consuming more, or producing more online social media content. Some are good, some are not so good, but I can see from talking to different stakeholders that social media content may not always be very healthy for consumption. So there is a team that looks at all this content moderation, and it can be very heavy sometimes for them to have to like filter through unsafe content. Yeah. So I think that's also something that came up quite strongly as a result of COVID-19.
Right. So I think some key points that you touched on was like, change in lifestyle. So the way we work, the way we live, it's all has been kind of like dramatically changed, and the perceptions. I like the point where you talk about the perceptions of working from home or doing things remotely has changed from you're not really doing not sure if you're doing your work to be just do what's comfortable and be productive in your own space, right? So as a university student, we have some of these kind of different kind of like activities that are done. For example, sometimes we have our lessons remotely or have our meetings remotely, and it might cause a strain on students because when you come into university, orientation is like the period where you really meet new people, exciting opportunities and everything, but we're kind of like restricted to limited face-to-face interactions nowadays, you know. So for the majority of our audience, which are mainly like your youth to young working adults, what's if you're a peer, you see that your peer needs like mental health support, then how could you possibly reach out to them in some ways?
One thing I would say is the students who use my platform tells me they complain. They say the orientation no longer fun. Then they'll say like, oh, my OG asked me to share like awkward story online and I don't know what to do with him or her. And I would also say that the whole approach to work, how we organize our work and student life also changes a lot. So it used to be that maybe last time at work you have to like micromanage, right? To get things done. Now you want to micromanage, you cannot, people are all remote. You can't hold people by a leash. And I would say that for student life, maybe last time there were more offline opportunities, like go for this event, go for that event, to make friends. I think for today's university students, they will want to look into other opportunities or ways to form that common bond, like find points where you can kind of relate and connect with each other. I think people are looking for meaningful experiences, like purposeful thoughts. And I think in today's time, I think the ones who kind of like are more reflective, and thoughtful, they will find more opportunities to make friends. And suppose you are in that position where people trust you, they come to you, or you see somebody who is distressed, I think it's helpful to know like you can do a few things for your friend. First is when you reach out, you might not be very certain what that emotion or the challenge they are facing. But I think when you reach out and you try to like maybe unpack or understand or just try to like show your concern, it can be a good and healthy distraction for your friend. Whether or not like you hit the bullseye, but at least you whack the target, you know what I mean? Just by hitting the target is a good like achievement unlocked for your friend who is like struggling or having a hard time. Beyond being a healthy distraction, what I think students can do for each other is really, recognizing that with COVID-19, new problems emerge. So we shouldn't be surprised if there are people who are under the weather because of new problems emerging from new contexts and situation. So maybe last time don't have to deal with this kind of shit, but now COVID-19, have to deal with this new problem, right? And then you find that some problems they become more solvable when you have somebody to bounce ideas with. And I think that's what, as a friend, you can do, giving some suggestions without solving the problem for the other people. And that could be the new mode of engagement. So yes, the value, the connection forms when we can both share in the experience of overcoming a challenge together. Yeah. So I hope like in that way, it also gives certain input on what can possibly change. I think last time we can just maybe go to this activity or that activity. The activity and the larger environment, the nightlife, the experiences, we don't have to do a lot of work. We just have to be there, right? But now all these things being cut back, then I think a lot of those activities and experiences that can form that human connection has to come from within. Yeah. And I think that's one change that COVID-19 has sort of imposed upon us. Yeah.
So Matt, so based on what you said, right? We talk a lot about reaching out, importance of making connections and all. So I do get that. I do think that is important as well. But what about, in our own perspective? For example, what do you think are some ways that can help if, to improve my own mental health, like your own mental health, aside from also reaching out to people who have potentially mental health issues?
I would say that it first starts from an awareness of the kind of emotions that is happening and how it's linked to a specific event. So when something is really triggering, okay, I think we will like, as humans, we will all like react very angry. Well, send the angry email, don't care. But at some point, being able to say, okay, that thing that happened, I felt this way. Maybe the first few times, the first few people talk to, you're just saying it as it is. But there will be a point where, okay, I am maybe less like emotionally vulnerable and not so maybe impulsive or whatnot. Like you can really process and say, okay, I was feeling this way. Like this is my emotion. Maybe a mixture of worry, mixture of anger, or it was fear, or it was just really upset. But I think being able to name that emotion is the first step towards a better like self-management. Because then, for example, if you identify the target, this is fear, right? Like fear is messing my mind up. Then when you want to process fear, you find that, okay, I can do certain things to start to test this a little bit. Can I gradually do certain things to help me fear this thing a little bit less? And you find that gradual confrontation exposure helps you to process and eventually control, overcome the fear. So I guess to your question about mental well-being, I think that effective awareness, like knowing that, oh, like I'm a little bit messed up today by my emotions, is a good first step. So that it also gives yourself that consent to let the emotion run its course. Yeah. Rather than feeling even more uncertain and having more negative emotions and thoughts compound your entire day to the point where you cannot function. Yeah. So I think that would be what I would suggest, yeah, as a first step. Then after that, talk to people, like quality social connection is such that the human touch you can't really substitute. I would argue, in fact, that healing is really like for healing to happen, the supportive, warm relationship is really a critical process. Yeah, there's no substitute for human touch, and there's no substitute for love, lah. Yeah, and being kind persons.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree that connection is something that is extremely powerful, and just even a slight hint of interaction, it really makes a lot of difference. Yeah. So thanks for sharing these wonderful tips, Matt. I do think that it's very important for all of us Singaporeans to really understand what mental health is, and also the different ways that we can approach it in order to increase our mental health being. So like what you said, first step is definitely awareness, understanding your emotions before even reaching out to people, having a connection, because that's where you really get to face your problem and try to understand where the root causes is. So thanks for having us. Really, really appreciate it so much. Yeah. So
yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's a show, right? Podcast. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Matt. And I think there are a lot of interesting points you brought up, like the different from like your experience, you're interacting with the users of your platform, and like just tips in general for youth. So right, we'll just open up the questions. I think we have a couple of them. Yeah, so maybe Matt, you can share about your platform, like the I think the text-based like chat interface is pretty interesting. So what you'd like to share more about it?
Yeah, I would say that one of the experience that you will get when you do like long form texting is it slows down everything. So where you used to kind of like type, bam, send out, right? And then so I mean one thing from the texting style, you can tell the age of a person. So you try to text your friend, you'll be like 10 unread messages, but actually it's 10 like short sentence. Now you do that thing to your grandfather, it will cause anxiety in him. And it's like, can you make up your mind? Can you like summarize your 10 sentence in one message so that you don't look decisive? And uh, a lot of times people say, Matt, like, why are you trying to impose this old man way of communication in young people who write long form anymore? But when you engage in long form, you find that it forces you to slow down and really process and articulate ideas. And you find that when you are on the receiving end, you pick up somebody's letter, they put a lot of heart into it, and it's like 200 words. You cannot just reply, okay, so how was your day? Tell me more, right? Like it sounds like there's no effort from you and condescending. And I think it creates a culture where there's a more equal exchange of information on the basis of mutual respect. It's very hard to replicate that in real time setting. So now like you have to listen, right? I talk, right? We can't like talk at the same time. So it's either I talk more or you talk more. But in text space, we can all talk at that same volume, or I can match your energy, or I can even give more than what you do. So 200 words me, I 400 words back to you. So I think that's one thing that is different. And I guess the other thing that students give me feedback on is, they don't read too much about Acceset. They will just like see my website, very cute graphics, and they will try. So I think also the warmth that conveys itself from our graphics, I think is also intended to give people a sense of comfort. Like, yes, mental health can be a deep issue, but it can also be an enlightening issue. So I don't believe in framing mental health in a negative light. I believe in seeing the possibilities and how those human conditions can empower us to reset lives and connect with others.
I think it's about like when you get youth. I like the point where you talk about when we talk about different generations come communicating. We use different kinds of phones growing up, and I think the way we text is very different. I'm pretty sure my attention span is way shorter than like anybody else around me. Yeah, so yeah, I think when you talk about the 200 word text, it really gets you to slow down. I think that's important. That's why we do reflections and all along the way. Right. So we have a question from the live audience actually. It's an interesting one. So, we talk about, I mean, in a more business ways, how you acquire customers and like how do you get your first customer in and stuff. So, I mean, in terms of users, like how do you reach out to the youth and encourage them to step forward and try your interface or application?
To be very honest, we haven't really like found the solution yet. But I think the broad question that we are thinking about is what does it take to earn the trust of the user? So what's holding you back from trying something? Is it because Acceset's service is not good enough, or you are missing certain points of information that you need to validate? Like you need to see it in order to trust my service. Like maybe I need to shake like the prime minister hand, then shake the president hand, then like take a few more photos. Like is that the social proofing that's needed? So, but it's quite hard to tell from our perspective. It could also be that maybe the product only has one or two things, so it's like generally a little bit lame relative to TikTok. So we have to work harder in that regard. But one thing is definitely for sure, the more users trying us and say, yeah, you've done a good enough job to deserve to earn like 30 minutes of my attention and try this. The more data we generate, the more we can study them, and we can see, oh, okay, people are using it this way in a way that is totally different from what I thought I should be doing. It will give us new ideas and develop something better. So I would say it's a very iterative process. Of course, if it's not good enough as a start state, you'll feel like, why bother, right? Like this is not going anywhere. But at the same time, you have to balance that against everybody got to start somewhere, right? Because one's it's gonna be terrible. So no data, very hard to improve. Yeah.
Right, I like the point on like data. I think if oil was fueled the economy in the past, like data fuels the current economy. So we talk about users, getting users to try the platform. Actually quite interested to know, when you did your user testing and all, like getting users to try a platform. Like, are you comfortable with talking to someone maybe they would not know for extended period of time?
That was something that we had to validate and test. And there were a lot of things that people were skeptical of, like in my model. First of all, why would strangers be so kind? And then like, why would people waste time and entertain other people's problem when their life is full of problem? And then how do you establish, and then from the other end, how do you establish connection with a stranger when you sometimes find it difficult to connect with somebody you already know very well, that kind of thing. Really, this is an empirical question. So some problems in life you don't try, you don't know, so I think with the pilot, what we saw was, okay, there is space for some conversations that, yes, even if you have with your friends, your family, and sometimes you have that conversation inside your head, but just kind of difficult, because I'm not anonymous, like my reputation is attached to it. Like, do I tell this friend? Would this burden this person? But at the same time, if it's stuck in my head, it also kind of jeopardized my day. So we found some interesting use cases where people entrust the information with us. And on the supply side, it was a refreshing experience. In fact, I come across problem where, because our system works in a way where once you write a letter, we will notify all the users. Bam, new letter, right? Like rare, it's like a rare animal kind of feeling. Wild animal appeared, and everybody will they're like the hunter. They'll go in and take the case. So in my different school pilot, I have had to deal with issues where, hey, Matt, then they're like the angry volunteer. Hey, Matt, didn't you tell me that there's a letter up? And then I go in and the letter was gone. And that's for like a small pilot group. So okay, I think we are doing it correctly for some users, that there is a certain level of novelty. People want to know, and they want that chance to connect and be helpful and learn from that process. And there is value in the exchange for both somebody writing the letter and somebody on the receiving end supporting it. Yeah. So it has worked out. I would say empirically, we are not like thousands, tens of thousands of letters, but we are serving an important niche. Yeah. People are coming back to write.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Right, Audrey.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting when you talk about like the supply side, and it's very nice to know that there are volunteers out there who definitely want to help. Previously you also talk about how your enterprise aims to equip people with certain skills, right, to be able to reach out to people. So in that case, do you conduct any training to these volunteers, or how do these people equip themselves with skills to reach out to people?
Okay, the outreach part is something that we don't do very well at the moment. I think it's a resource intensive endeavor when you think in terms of for example, if I want to raise awareness, I need to like buy out all the influencers, right? Then everybody put their rate card. Okay, Matt, like mine is 500, mine is 1,000. I'm more famous, 2,000. Oh yeah, just buy everybody one post. That's it, right? My 1 year of salary give to all the influencer. Then I see them like drive the like famous cars and all. So it's a very expensive thing. That's why we haven't done a lot of that. But I believe also that eventually we have to go that way to really help people see this thing. But maybe the better way to raise awareness is to equip people with the skill set. So the cost-effective way that we have done is developing the workshops, working with partners to who already has an audience. They work with several youth communities. An example is we go to the school, right? We don't know school by school. Hey, this is our curriculum, you know, like welcome trust and all that, and like these are evidence-based. Of course, maybe statistically, I can tell you out of 200 MOE schools I know, maybe 2 were written. They will say, okay, you know, I don't mind listening. So entrepreneurship is not as glamorous as what it seems. 1% return rate. I think people are generally skeptical. And shaking the queen's hand or like getting welcome trust doesn't improve the win rate. Yeah. At the end of the day, trust is very hard to earn, very easy to lose. And within what we can do, the workshops, and then after that, the outreach session, the students will say, okay, I want to give this a shot. They will do it in several forms. One form, they will try out as a user. Another form, they will write in and say, I want to do an internship. And that's where we kind of like slowly grow our awareness. But I do know, like in the grand scheme of things, we are still like the rare animal that appear. Oh, have you heard of Acceset? Oh, what's Acceset? Oh, go and check it out. I think we are still very early stage, but progressing quite okay. Yeah, I think the schools know us and they're watching the development. So hopefully some of the schools say, okay, I want to like chop my stamp ready, like buy this asset out. And I think that will give us a base to grow. Yeah. But it won't be overnight.
Right. So this is pretty interesting. Talking about strategy and like startup school is like the school of hard knocks. We learn through like experimentation, validation, and test hypotheses over and over again. Yeah. So I think the live audience is quite interested in like the business model and everything, like how everything kind of like balances out. Because it's a very very interesting and much needed social cause that you're really addressing. But at the same time, like as a business, as an enterprise in general, there has to be some, like we call it the 3P, the three bottom lines, the triple bottom line, the people, the product and all, right, and profit. So yeah, the last question from the audience, like maybe we can quickly like wrap this up. So is how is it? Yeah, so the audience, this is interested to know, like if he wants to join as a supporter, like how can he reach out to you or anything?
Can write in, but I would say that at this stage, it is not a heavy focus of my organization to like run workshop. I think one of our difficulty is if you want to run a workshop, you have to coordinate a lot of steps, like setting up the form and then getting a common date, doing the training, and then evaluating the quality of response. It is easier to do it in an institutional setting. Like, okay, this is a class, like let's get Matt to do this and as part of e-learning and do this sort of thing. And if you want, join the initiative. So I found that with the same amount of effort and time, I can make a bigger impact when I work with organizations. So from time to time, I have one or two individual who will say that, look, I want to volunteer. Like maybe they are interested in the system. They want to support the system. I appreciate that. I would say that the help that we will the things that will really help us get to the next stage is, like maybe coming in to volunteer in other capacity, like finding out our needs and whether there's any kind of work that you would like to be involved that can really help us in the next step. But in any case, drop an email. Happy to discuss further and understand what you hope to achieve or do, as a volunteer. Then you see that discuss possibilities.
Right, right. So yeah, thanks for the question. And I can't just help but look at your logo at the background. Like it's interesting. So just explain to us, like tell us what's the inspiration.
Okay, so Accept is Accept Care and Reset Lives, right? Accept Care is the heart inside the. Then Reset Lives is you see that button, the arrow down up. That's a reset button. So then when you accept care, where you got a heart and the reset button, then you turn over a new leaf. So inside the heart got the leaf.
Wow.
I think it's a little bit cliche, but I thought it was important because I'm quite proud of this like accept care, reset lives thing. I was like, oh, okay, I can live with this name, I can take ownership of this company name and I'm proud to be associated with this name. Yeah. Then based on this accept reset, then volunteers came out with this concept, which I really love. Yeah.
I really like the tagline too, like it rings like, it's a catchy name and a nice logo go with it. Right.
Yeah,
So
very easy to remember also.
Really? It was so hard. Like I think the first few years, my mentor laughed at me, said nobody will know your company, right? It's like, how do I even pronounce this? This is 3 phonetic letters and whatnot. But increasingly I found that people like get the name right. So I was like, okay, so I think I must have done something correct. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Marketing done right. But I think maybe people mix up the number of C's, the number of S, but yeah, I think you get the point. Yeah. So I think thanks for sharing with us today. And like this channel is really like a perfect platform for publicity, like for youth, because our target audience is youth. So like hopefully that if you're take away something from the sharing and want to help out in different capacities, or just be a peer supporter for your friends, this will be like some tips that you can take away and just impart in your daily lives as we tide through this COVID-19 pandemic together. Right. So yeah, thanks again, Matt, for joining us today. And yeah, I really appreciate your time and sharing. Since you've been doing back-to-back sessions of sharing, I assume very, very popular demand. Right. So yeah, thanks for sharing. And I think thanks to the audience for tuning in and asking the questions too. If you follow up with Matt, you can just Google Acceset the names in the background and drop him an email and we can chat from there. Right. So thanks for joining us for this session of Heartbeats and see you next time.